We are not licensed medical professionals. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are meant to share our experiences and not to diagnose or as a form of treatment. If you or anyone you know is currently suffering, respectfully encourage them to seek help from a licensed medical professional. The topics discussed in this podcast may be triggering for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Now Try It With Wine. My name is Des.
And I'm Mary.
And in today's episode, we are talking about trust issues.
And to kind of start off today's episode, we wanted to share a short story from Medium.com from Katina Biedman in an article called 7 Tips to Help You Stop Trusting the Wrong People. She had a really cute and little short story about trust and how we should build trust. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little excerpt from it. About a year ago, this black cat started to show up at my door. It would peek inside, and when I approached it, it would run away. Slowly over time, as trust started to build, it would come inside and walk around. Then it would briefly let me scratch its head before running away. I realized it was starving and began to feed it. Even while it was eating, it was skittish and would run away if I moved around or made any sudden movements. As the weeks passed, the cat began to relax, even allowing me to pet it. It became more and more trusting and more open. A year later, and it lies on its back, belly exposed, totally trusting as I lovingly pet and adore it. As I reflect on my deepening relationship with this stray cat, I realize what a powerful lesson it taught me. It did not rush into my house or my life. It did not immediately become my best friend. It held back. It took its time. It built trust between the two of us, and slowly, one day at a time, it paced their relationship according to its own feelings of safety. This is how healthy relationships are built.
I really like that story.
Me too. I think it shows a lot of there's another part of it that stuck out to me was that even when she was being nice to the cat and giving it food, it wasn't until she did it consistently that it allowed the trust to build. And I think that's my problem when it comes to trusting people, is they're nice to me even just a little bit, and I'm like, oh my God, they love me.
I think, I don't know, I just really like the story only because, like we talked about it off the podcast, it's consistency, and you can't just be nice one time and just expect someone to, you earn that person's trust. I can't speak today. Trust is given.
Yeah, it just needs to be earned, not given.
Right.
And I think we did a lot of research about this episode because if you haven't guessed it, we're talking about trust and trust issues, especially after talking about a lot of the invalidation that goes on. Like, how do you start building trust with people who are constantly invalidating you?
I think it begins, like you said, with consistency, but I don't think it should only just be doing nice things. I think it comes with gestures, how you speak to the person sentence-wise. It doesn't have to be something big. I mean, if someone told me I had a nice shirt, I would take it.
I think that's building rapport, too, which was actually one of the things in the Forbes article that we're also going to link in the top, entitled 5 Core Reasons You Continue to Trust the Wrong People and How to Stop.
Oh, no.
With Catherine Caprino, I think is how I said that. If I didn't say it right, I apologize. We'll link it to the top. You can make fun of me in the comments. She actually listed as one of the things that you should be aware of is that they are very charismatic, persuasive, and impressive. So they tend to feed and another thing she brought up is they validate what we need to hear and believe about ourselves. So saying something nice to you is validating you and is building that rapport of trust. So I think what she's talking about is something that I've noticed with people, that the people that I trust, they do that. Mm-hmm. However, you can feel when that's disingenuous and being faked, when that compliment is being faked. It's too much or it's too little.
Do you think it's like, I can't remember the saying, but it's called like a sandwich, like a mean sandwich. You say something nice, like, oh yeah, I really like your shirt, and then you say something mean, but it does kind of smell funny, and then you say something nice again, but that's okay, you know?
I don't remember. I think it's a compliment sandwich is what it's called.
Oh, you're right. I think it is.
And I think that's part of the issue is you can sense in that conversation that something's off because they felt the need to include that little part of it smelling. Like if it were me and I was gonna tell you that, I'd be like, Des, you look really fucking cute today, but like side note, like to the side by ourselves, it has an odor to it, like you might want to go change real quick. And I would end it there. I wouldn't go back and try to like pacify you. Like if it smells to the point where I have to feel the need to say something to you,
Right.
I'm just gonna be direct and do it off to the side. I think people who you can't trust are the people who do that in front of everybody.
And make sure that everybody hears you.
Yeah, because they're intentionally doing it. But you think that they're helping you because they're doing that little compliment sandwich and they're ending it and starting it on a positive note, and it leaves you confused when it's over.
I should have been reading this in high school.
I feel like this was happening a lot in high school, but then I also find it, for me, happening a lot in the workplace.
I think it does. I remember when I was in the pediatric office, again, this is when I was gaining weight, subtly, not subtly. We were getting new uniforms, and I told them that I wanted a medium, and one of the girls was like, "Are you sure you want a medium? Don't you think you should go a little bigger?" I'm just saying, though, like, it's just my opinion. Why would you say that?
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't you pull me to the side or, like...
In the workplace, I would never say anything. If that's what the person said, like, it's not personal to me at work. Like, we could be friends, but I still wouldn't say anything like that.
Exactly. And especially, like you said, I don't have trust with that person at all. At that point, that person is just a coworker to me. So even if they're being nice to me, I'll take it, but I won't like hold on to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And for me in the workplace, it's a mind your business environment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to get into anybody else's stuff. And I've had it where people have had an out with each other and I'm friends with both of them and they want to put me in the middle. Nope, I'm not commenting on either side.
That's your business, not mine.
Yeah, I'm staying neutral with it. Like, and if they try to drag me into talking about the other person, I disengage. I don't include myself. I stay silent. I become silent.
I'm a chismosa, so I'll listen. But if you're not asking for my 2 cents, then I'm not going to say anything, you know?
Yeah, even if they ask me for my 2 cents, I wouldn't say anything. I'm not going to tell them what they can or cannot do. That's their business, but I'm not going to get in the middle of it. And I also don't like being the person who goes and tells somebody else, hey, that person was talking about you. Because in work, it has to be all business because you don't want to get sucked into that kind of relationship with people.
Right.
And I do feel like there's a lot of this people who appear as winners, they're charismatic, persuasive, and impressive in the workplace. Because people are being complimented on their work ethic, but just because they're a good worker doesn't mean they're a good person.
Do you think that brings up the, I guess, like jealousy too? Because that person's doing so much better, and I'm putting quotations, you're not.
Yeah, I think that it builds a lot of animosity, but also for me, you also have to look at who's complimenting them. Do they really know how this person works? Do they really understand like how their performance is actually going? Because there's actually a lot of times, not in the place I work now, but especially in the previous one, where I felt like the people who were being complimented were the people who were just really good friends with some of the people in upper management, and so they would get those compliments and other people wouldn't. And it's kind of disheartening to the people who are doing a really good job on their own and not putting things out there. Like for me personally, I do not like boasting about anything that I do. It makes me very uncomfortable. I just like making it about the work and going home.
Okay, I agree.
But I feel like me not boasting about things has served as a disadvantage a lot in the workplace for me.
Can I ask how? I'm like, I have an idea, like, because you're keeping it quiet, like.
Well, other people will take credit and then they'll get credit for it. So that happens to a lot. And it's almost like management will see the work being done, but they don't know how it's getting done. So the wrong people are promoted. The wrong people are praised. Just the wrong people.
That's not right.
But I think it's something that's consistent in all workplaces. I don't think this is something that's like special to any individual place. Every place that I have worked has had some level of it. Oh,
yeah. I mean, no, I can't talk about my current job. I like my job.
I like my job too. I don't think, and it's not intentional at my job, and I don't see it that way either. And I like that I have a manager that I can go to and have conversations with. But I've noticed in the previous place I worked before here, it was running rampant. And I think that they saw that with kind of the way the business performance started to turn around the same time that this kind of stuff was happening. So,
and I think you're right. Trust can be brought into anything. It can be romantic relationships, work relationships, family relationships, pet relationships. Personally, I don't really trust my dog.
I don't trust Puka here at your house. He's on a leash right now. He cannot be trusted.
I have a big old German Shepherd, and I love her, but she gives me love bites. That's all.
They're gentle.
They're gentle, yeah. She's never broke skin. She just likes to play that way. But I did want to talk about, like you said, it can be brought into any type of situation, only because you're right. I'm with my previous job, the call center one. I really thought month by month I would not have a job because, like you said, I had trust issues with it. If I did not meet that quota, they would tell me, like, you will most likely lose your job if you don't make it by the end of this month. And that was for everybody. Like I said, I was just a number. But again, I never felt stable at that job.
I get what you mean. Like, for me too, I've noticed that when I'm starting to feel confused by management's perspective, or like I'm having a really hard time trusting my manager or leader, that I start to question my place within the organization. I don't want to go to work and question myself while I'm there, because I tend to notice that when I do get up to go to work, just in general, like to do any kind of work, it's not even just like work, like if I volunteer or if I'm coming to do the podcast, if I'm going to go and do it, I want to leave just as happy as I got there.
Right.
And there's been instances where when I get excited about going somewhere and the way people are talking to each other is just off, the vibe is off, and it makes me distrustful of the environment, and then it ruins my whole experience.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. And I think we should bring in, like, that should be like family trust issues.
Yeah, for sure. I think with my own family, I struggle with trusting, now that I'm aware of the critical speech. I'm struggling with trusting anything. But even it goes beyond just trusting the person who said something ugly to me. I also don't trust that I'm analyzing the situation properly. Like, am I overreacting? Am I taking this too seriously? Am I the one causing the drama? Yes, they said something ugly to me, but am I making it worse?
The drama?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens to me. If anyone in my family members makes a comment to me, like, I don't know, but my favorite comment that they've been making to me lately is, your house clean?
Why does that matter? Are you there right now?
I don't. They keep asking me that. So I'm like internalizing it as like, oh my God, if I tell them you're crossing a boundary, stop talking about my house, am I taking it too far? Are they just joking? Even though their tone clearly indicates they're not joking. But immediately upon hearing something nasty, I'm like, oh my God, am I causing this? Am I causing the drama? Am I making a scene? Like, am I going to make a scene? Am I making a bigger deal of all of this than it's worth? Because I've had in the past where a boundary's been crossed and I've addressed it immediately and said, no, you can't talk to me that way. And I've killed the vibe of the party. People stop looking at me. People stop talking to me. They're like I made it uncomfortable by addressing that or putting that boundary up.
So I guess, like, putting up a boundary, would it be the same thing as, like, the shirt situation that we made up? Like, wouldn't have been better? I'm only saying, like, would it have been better if you pulled them to a side? But, like, at least, like, for some of my family, I would pull them to the side and say it. And again, this is an example. And then they would just go back to the party and talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's definitely something that would have happened with the people who said something to me that I didn't like in the middle of a party.
So regardless, either you would have killed the vibe, or they would have
went behind and killed it behind me anyways.
Or they would have made fun of you.
Yeah. And I tend to and I don't, when I have that kind of knee-jerk reaction to say something, it's usually out of anger, if I'm going to be honest. It's like when it's upset me with something that they said. I'm starting to get better to just walk away from the situation and not give it my energy. But I also feel like I'm in a cycle of continuously doing that, walking away, not giving it energy, just trying to like validate myself that this is the right thing to do. Then it happens again. Then it happens again. Then 2 weeks later, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that that's enough at this point. but I don't trust my environment enough to be able to go and talk to that person and say, look,
One-on-one.
yes.
To tell them how you feel. I agree.
Because
Before we
trust is
continue-
environment too.
Exactly.
Safe space.
Exactly. Before we continue, let's have a gulp.
Yes, yes, please. This one has to have been my favorite that we've had so far. It's
I know,
delicious.
it's very good. Today we're doing a rosé.
A sweet rosé.
That's all we can say.
I always like the pink colored wines.
For the most part, the pink ones are really good. I have had some that are disgusting. I don't want to put names out there, but it involves patas. I hate that brand. I hate that brand.
I don't even know which brand you're talking about, but I have had some pretty nasty, like overly fruity
Oh, I can
wines.
say it. It's Barefoot.
Oh,
I hate Barefoot. You will never hear a
I
sponsorship.
remember when I first moved out and Robert and I were playing around with alcohol, and I thought Barefoot wine was the shit. It was cheap, so we could afford it, and we could afford it in large quantities.
True. I will say, I think I hate it because my mom hates it. My mom and my tias are like very wine drinkers. And when I started drinking wine with them, when I was 21 years old, the right time,
I like how she's prefacing that. Do you hear the tone in her voice?
I was 21. I'm smiling.
The entire time she was 21.
I'm lying through my teeth. They would be like, Barefoot is disgusting. Or, they would also say like Arbor Mist is juice. So I got started a little higher up.
With that good.
I know. I can't go back down. I can only go up.
I still like occasionally will like a Barefoot or an Arbor Mist if I'm as a mix with something else.
Yeah.
Like it's not the
They're
only
good
thing.
mixers.
It's not the only thing because it has a really strong flavor, so it'll carry through really nicely when I mix it.
I will say yes to Arbor Mist. I hate Barefoot. I'm sorry, Mary.
Honestly,
to me, they taste like
I've
bata.
only ever had it mixed in with stuff. So I've never had Barefoot straight, but the Arbor
don't.
Mist, I got it confused. It was the Arbor Mist that Robert and I would buy, but then we'd mix it with stuff.
But Arbor Mist is good. Like, I agree. It tastes like juice, but it's good.
And we just mixed it and it was fun.
You need a good party drink that's cheap and good. Boom, Arbor Mist. Anyways,
So I think we should move on. We talked about family. Let's talk about relationships, romantic relationships, and trust.
okay, we'll do that. So, I know we're talking about relationships now, but I do want to preface that when I don't know, like, Mary, how you saw it, but when I was doing my research on today's topic, I only found for relationships, unless I typed, like, trust issues with family members or trust issues in the workplace. Like, I had to only, or if I only put trust issues, it came out with relationships. Did you have that problem?
I did, and I felt, or it was too generic. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't specific to family relationships or workplace relationships. Because I don't even think they really, any of the articles I read talked about trust in the workplaase.
It
And how
could be
important
we are
that is.
different. Mary always sends me articles and I send her YouTube videos.
But I think it's because we both learn differently, and I think that's really. I think it's really cool, honestly, that we switch back and forth between videos and articles.
Yeah, of course. I always read your articles. Don't think I don't.
I know. I always listen to your videos.
But-
I like the anxiety one, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. The producer's right here. It's kind of weird talking about it.
Andrew, close your eyes.
Close your ears too.
Oh wait! Don't say. Dewdrop. Close your eyes.
Oh my gosh. So, relationship-wise, I do want to talk about the beginning of Andrew and I's relationship. We got together our senior year, and before that, I got out of a really bad relationship, and I had trust issues that I didn't know about yet. I feel like I'm so out of breath.
If you need to take a sip, take a sip.
Yeah, we should take a sip.
This is gonna get a little. I'm gonna talk a little bit about mine and Robert too. So let's take a little sip.
No. we will refer to the ex as thou who shall not be named. He
Voldemort.
will be named Voldemort.
Lord Voldemort.
If we're going to be exact. So, when I was dating Voldemort at the time, if I was going to take a shower at home, I had to text him. And I had to text him how long it was going to be. Just an estimate. And if it was higher than that estimate, automatically assumed I was cheating. I had to tell him if I was going out with my family or if I left my phone at the house. Oh my God. I was cheating. You know, that's just like the tip of the iceberg of everything. But I think it like gives us
an idea of what it was like.
Yeah. That was like 2.5 years of my life down the drain. And I finally like broke up with Voldemort and everything. I took a year to myself, and then Andrew and I started dating. The big thing that really happened is in our school we had off campus, and I guess I was just so used to always knowing what was going on. That's what I assumed with Andrew. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He didn't tell me he was going off campus, and I blew up on him. Like, I was like, oh my God, how could you not tell me you were going off campus? You were probably cheating on me. You hate me. Again, in the previous relationship, I did not know how to communicate. Voldemort would call me every name in the book, and I would do the same thing back because that was how we would, like, communicate to each other. It's not good. It was not good. I think I said in the first episode that Andrew was very patient with me. And he was. He calmed me down and he was like, I just went off campus with a couple of my friends. I don't understand why you're getting so upset at me. And when he told me that, I was like, why am I getting upset with him? Why do I not trust him? This is a different relationship. Why am I putting it like it's my old one? You know?
Yeah.
And again, this was in high school. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's high school. Just get over it. We're married now. And like, if we did break up, imagine me being the toxic ex.
Toxica.
Exactly. I don't want to be the toxica. He married me. He can call me a toxica now.
It's allowed.
It's allowed. At the time, like, I think that was our big one. That, like, I yelled at him and everything. Another one, he was talking to his ex, but they were actually really good friends. It's not like they were talking. Like, they were, like, being friends.
Yeah.
It was nothing big, and I blew up on him again, and I was telling all my friends, I'm ready to break up with him. I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm just going to break up with him. And Andrew was like, why are you getting so upset? If you don't want me to talk to her, why couldn't you tell me that? I told you in the beginning that we were talking to each other as friends, and you understood that. But as soon as it happened, again, I forgot to tell you, it happened on social media. All she did was, like, post a joke, and I hated it because Andrew put LOL. And he was like, if you did not want that, you could have told me in the beginning, but you didn't. He was right. I think, again, Andrew was very patient with it, but I didn't put up any boundaries when we dated because I really wanted Andrew to like me. A little more to the context, Andrew and I were on and off again as friends. Not with benefits, like just friends. Like friends that we would make out and then I'd be like, hey, you want to get together? And he was like, no. So I didn't put any boundaries up. I wasn't really putting myself first either. I was trying to make myself the best self for him. So when he would do something that I didn't like, how am I supposed to react to that, you know?
Yeah.
As someone newly out of a relationship, that was my first big relationship. So that's where I learned everything, you know?
And I get that people want to put their best foot forward when they're first, you know, they like somebody, they want to talk to them and they want to make sure that that person likes them. But I also feel like it does a real disservice to the overall relationship because you put up expectations that you're the good time girl, that you'll roll with the punches, you can talk to me any which way. And then when you catch real feelings, you're not the good time girl anymore. And Robert and I had the same issue where, like, in the beginning, he would sometimes call me names as a joke. And of course, I want to be the good time girl, so I didn't say anything about it. And then when I started actually having feelings for him, it hurt. And I didn't, again, I waited until I blew up on him about it instead of just talking to him about it.
Exactly. All of this could have been avoided, again, if we did minor changes. If I talked to him how I felt about it, and if I explained to him, like, I know I said in the beginning that I didn't know I had these like trust issue problems. I don't know if Andrew sensed it, but if you the listener know you have these problems, please tell the other person. I'm only saying I didn't because that was my first big relationship. Voldemort at the time showed me everything.
He showed you everything wrong.
Exactly. He showed me
some Death Eater shit, and I didn't know what to do.
I didn't even get the cool wand, bro. Like,
he just threw me in, showed me some Death Eater shit, then he threw me back out on the streets, and I didn't know how to behave.
Exactly. It was just, he showed me everything wrong. Voldemort sucks. Both Voldemort and Voldemort. So when I dated Andrew, I expected everything to go the same way. Again, I'm very thankful that Andrew was patient with me, and I think now we're good. I say think because sometimes I still don't, like, I just shut down, but I talk about it with someone. I know we always preface like talk, but talking does help.
And I want to preface that part by saying, know who you're talking to when you have these vulnerable conversations. And the trust in the safe space is so important, and you can't assume anything. I know Des and I had talked a little bit in our first podcast about how we've had issues between each other because the trust wasn't there. And to be quite honest, we weren't saying where our boundaries were with each other. And so at least they were being crossed.
Well, we're both people pleasers.
Yes. But then we would get, I think me and I both have the tendency that when we're like really close to people, we tend to be a little more free with our words and not realize how painful they can be.
Yeah.
And that was definitely difficult for us when we first started trying to have this safe space. So I want to preface that to everybody else, that if you're going to start addressing some of these issues and trying to work, like I agree with Des, talking things out with someone is so important to get over something. That's why I do it with my counselor before I do it with anybody else, so that I can get an idea of how I feel, because you won't really know how you feel till you start talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why when you went into this relationship with Andrew, you didn't know you had those trust issues because no one was in that space with you of relationship. And no one could sense what was going on.
Right, that's true. I do want to add, I did not talk to my parents about Voldemort and all those problems. And I didn't talk to them about Andrew, really. I only talked about the good stuff. I mean, Andrew never had bad stuff. But like when we got in those fights, I didn't talk to anybody. I actually talked to my friends. And unfortunately, my friends were going through the same thing with Voldemort. Not with Voldemort in particular.
But their own Voldemort.
Yeah, they had their own Voldemort. So I was getting help from someone that didn't know anything either and was still going through that pain.
Yeah.
And how is that supposed to help me?
Yeah, and you have to really know who you're talking to. Like,
exactly.
If they're even capable of helping you. And then also, I think Jez and I had talked about this off the podcast, but the intentions of those people too. Because some people just like to stir the pot, and you're telling them your business. It's just going to make things so much worse.
Exactly.
Especially when you're dealing with people in this high school environment of cattiness.
It was all right. I'm just kidding.
Well, my trust issues were a little different. Of course, I've been with Robert. We've been married going on 8 years this year. And we still have a little bit of trust issues between each other. You know, Robert sometimes will just shut down in the middle of an argument and stop talking, stop communicating with me, and just step away. And that is so frustrating when I'm finally because I eventually, like I've said in the past, I have to work myself up to even have a conversation. And if Robert feels like let's say I'm unleashing a little too much truth, he just shuts down. And it's my truth. I'm not saying that it's the truth of what's happening. It's my version of what's happening. And if I get a little too free with my words,
right,
he doesn't know how to react and he immediately shuts down. So then I feel like sometimes it's left me with the impression that I can't trust him to have this conversation with me because he's just going to shut down and that nothing's going to get resolved because I'm just going to give in anyways.
I understand. And it does, like you said, it doesn't help because I have that same problem. I know I've told you and I've said it on the podcast, I feel like I have my dad's temperament. And I think we're almost in the same relationship, just switch, because Andrew likes to talk about it and you like to talk about it once you're ready for it. And I'm not ready for it, so I'm going to shut down. And I agree, it doesn't help the situation at all. And it took you who knows how long, you know?
Yeah, to finally say something, and then you see the other person shutting down. It's like, then why did I even bother working myself up to talk about this with you?
Exactly.
And he's not doing it to be mean. Like, you're not doing it to be mean either. It's just, it's a lot. Because of course I've had time to think the whole thing out, figure out how I'm going to present it to you, and then present it to you. And you're hearing this for the first time and expected to react immediately. Mm-hmm. So like, now I understand that, but when you're angry,
yeah,
it doesn't come out that way. And I also feel like when in those moments where I'm angry with him, I don't have any trust for him. Like, I don't trust that he's operating with my best interest at heart, which is totally not true. I'm very blessed with the marriage that I have. Does he do everything right? Hell no. Does he say the right thing all the time? Hell no. Does he even like treat me right all the time? Hell no. But you could say the same things about me.
I agree. I think that's in every relationship. If you have a picture perfect relationship, give me the details.
I know. I think the most frustrating thing for me is when I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about you.
Oh,
was when you were announcing you were going to get married, and you're like, "We've never fought." I was like, "Bullshit! You guys never fought." Because I know with you guys, to you, it was the arguments were of a smaller scale to you, so it's like a little bitty fight. If you had never honestly fought with Andrew, I would have been like, "Girl, get out."
Oh no,
he's not being honest with you. Because there's no way you can be in a relationship with someone and not disagree about anything.
I think I said we never fought. Because I will be honest, I don't think we like have those big fights that like you see in movies.
Yeah, we're defining fight differently.
Exactly. And that's one thing. I saw my parents fight a lot when I was younger. So that's all I think of, like a screaming fight, basically, you know, door slamming. So that's what I think a fight is. So I preface like our first fight when we were first dating in high school as our big fight. Since then, I don't think we've ever had a fight like that. I lied. I think like our first month living together, we had one fight.
I know, because I heard about it.
Yeah.
But you've heard about me and Robert's fights too. I remember when I came to you, and after we had an argument, or I think I came over, I asked you, it was the day after a party. I came over, it was just me to talk to you. And you had made a comment to me, I don't even know if you remember it, that like you thought me and Robert were like some perfect couple.
I do. Again, I love the saying, you never know what's happening behind closed doors.
And when you said that, I like unloaded on you. About like everything that was going on in the background, because I do have a really good, strong marriage, and people see that. And I'm not going to say you're the only person who ever said that to me, but don't trust what you see on the outside to be the whole truth.
Exactly. I want to preface that, because Mary's right. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but from what I see like a picture perfect relationship. And that's what our friends see in Andrew and I, and it is not. It is not.
It is a lot of hard work to be in a relationship and have trust.
Don't look at me like that.
We're not saying the relationship
perfect.
We are good. It's just I still have I don't know how to get what?
Communication issues.
Yeah. I told Andrew I'm good at communicating. I'm bad at comprehending.
Yes, the same thing. I can spill out everything that's going on, but when Robert's trying to tell me his part of it, I'm like, "You're a crazy person. This makes no sense." But I was getting to the whole thing about trust. It's a lot in a relationship. I feel like the trust, there has to be a lot of trust and love and loyalty to make a marriage work. People keep saying like we get married for love. I'm gonna be honest. I got married because I trusted him. I trusted him to take care of me. I knew going in, just because of my background and watching my parents' marriage, love isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. My mom and dad loved each other very, very much. But does that mean that they're good together? No. Does it mean that they're like gonna pine for each other the rest of their lives? I don't know. But it wasn't healthy. And what came out of it wasn't healthy. And I didn't want that. So
Wait, Mary, you came out of it.
do you think I'm healthy?
I think so.
I think I've gotten to that point now because I had to grow up so much leading up to it. Because I'm going to be honest, as when I hear our podcast, I can hear the differences between us in our voice.
Is it because I talk low? That's what
No,
Andrew tells me.
it's like life hits different for everybody.
That's a good analogy. I mean, it is true. I know we said, again, this isn't a pissing contest. This is our safe space. But I know Mary has gone through a lot more than I have. But I'm happy that Mary still validates my hurts too.
I'm
I
going to
feel
tell you
like
something
crying.
that I told my therapist this week because we talked about you.
Oh my God. Good or bad?
And it was good. I told her, like, this podcast has made it so that I can talk to someone who I know has no idea what my pain feels like. I remember I told somebody else a story and about how the pain hit, like, almost like the world was crashing around you, and you don't know where you can't ground yourself in that moment. Like you can't make sense of it. You're almost like you were disoriented, almost like a bomb went off, and the pain just hit so much that your legs give out and you're crying, but you can't breathe while you're crying at the same time, and just like earth-shattering pain. And then when I talk to you and I hang out with you and I hear your stories, I'm like, people can live without ever experiencing that, and you'll have I pray that you'll never feel that ever. And it's like, so for me, it gives me hope that I could possibly have a child who will never feel that kind of pain or see someone else experience that kind of pain. Because when I'm talking about earth-shattering moments for me, they were never things that were happening to me. It was happening to people that I loved, and watching them go through that pain. It was, and I want to preface that part by saying it was happening to me at the same time, but watching their pain was so much worse than my own pain.
Well, I know you've told me, like, how it's affected your adult life, too.
I for sure we're going to do an episode where we talk about it, like legit talk about it.
That's in the future.
That's in the future, because I want to do it with somebody, and I'm waiting for them to be ready.
Yeah.
But
I'm holding back so many tears right now.
I'm trying to get it under control. It's just, if you open yourself to trusting people, even when life has really bit you in the ass, you can be more hopeful. And that's what I feel like I've done with you, is I see hope that there could be something different.
I'm very thankful for that. I think for the most part, I guess, like, my big things, you've unfortunately felt them too. But it's nice to talk to someone knowing it. At least for, like, my stuff, I told my sister about it. I don't want to talk about it yet, because then I have to tell my parents, and I'm not ready to have that conversation yet.
There's things I don't want to talk about yet because I have to tell my parents.
Because I know I told them to listen, so I don't want to talk about it yet. But I remember telling my sister, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to hear sorry, because it's not gonna help, you know."
And I make sure never to say sorry.
Exactly, and I don't want to say sorry, one, because I don't want to hear sorry. It doesn't help, and you didn't cause it.
Yeah.
You know? And another thing, you didn't know. You know?
Yeah.
So I'd like having you, and unfortunately another person, to talk to about it, because we can just feel pain together.
I think that's very important with someone, if you're going to trust them with your feelings and like your little hurts and stuff, is that they're willing to sit in the pain with you. I've read a lot about that. You see it all over the place, that sometimes the best thing to do is just sit with them. And that's really, people just need to cry it out sometimes.
Yeah. I don't think I've done that yet.
Because they're both trying to be respectful.
Yeah, that's it. I have this tissue. The only tissues I have Vaporub in them, and they hurt. I tried using them on my eyes last time, and I cried more.
I just think we talked about our trusting friendship.
Well, I think it's good because I want to show that, yes, we make this podcast, but again, like Mary said, it's because we trust enough with each other to have this platform to talk about it, and hopefully this helps someone else out there, you know?
I agree, because I think that when you do a podcast, or anyways, when I hear about podcasts, it's always, you see these like great friendships and they're just talking on the podcast, and I don't think they talk about the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't really know about that got them to this point.
Exactly. My other very close friend that unfortunately shares the same pain as me, I got drunk and told her, and that's when she told me. We were both drunk, and she knows who I'm talking about.
I feel like I don't think I've like said revelations necessarily when I was intoxicated, but it's because I am so safeguarded of my pain.
I think that's one thing too. It follows really well with trust because I pick who I want. You know, I don't want to, again, like you said in the Forbes, I don't want to pick someone and then they tell all my secrets. You know, I'm very open when I talk about Voldemort because I don't ever want to happen to someone else again. So again, I'm open with that and I'm okay with talking about that, but other stuff I'm not okay with. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me because with my counseling, when I started going to therapy and it like started helping me, I've been very vocal about my push for people to go to therapy because like I said before, it changed my life. Hearing someone else who isn't a family member, who isn't a friend that I met like off the streets or someone that I went to with the intention of building a safe space with, having those conversations with me and honestly, she doesn't always say what I want to hear. And I really respond to that because, like I said, I have a lot of trust issues. And if you're telling me everything I want to hear, something's wrong. And I think that's why I've been so open with people about my counseling. But I don't necessarily tell everybody everything we talk about in my counseling.
Well, one, that is you and your counselor. And then two, it is up to you. I sound like the little owl guy. And a three.
I know I tell you some of the stuff and my husband and my mom. Different things. I don't always tell my mom everything, and I don't always tell you everything, and I don't always tell Robert everything. It's like what I've built that space with us to talk about.
Right.
So you don't have to share it because you shared with one person. You have to share it with everybody.
Exactly.
Like you can pick and choose. So I want to encourage everybody as they're building their trust circles and they're looking at people in their lives, wondering who they could trust, to try this exercise that my therapist blew my mind with, called the trust circles.
It is life-changing. Then imagine jazz hands right now. Life-changing.
Or the SpongeBob meme, imagination.
But life-changing.
Des and I both did the exact same thing. I'm going to link the activity in the description. Basically, you're going to draw 4 circles inside of each other on a spread sheet of paper, and you're going to put yourself in the middle, which is very important because you should always trust yourself above anybody else. If your gut says no, it's a no.
You're important.
The most important.
Mm-hmm.
Then the circle outside of it is your closest friends, the people who you can come to and talk to about your deepest, darkest secrets. Then you go a little further out, and these people you can be friends with and you choose to spend your time with, but they're not necessarily the people you want to tell your deepest, darkest secrets to. Then the outer part is everybody else. People you meet on the street, people you have an acquaintanceship with. They belong on your trust circle too because you're trusting them with a little part of your life, and that has to be evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
When Des and I first did this experiment with the trust circles, we both filled them out the way we perceived people.
I'll be honest. I don't know if you want to.
Go ahead.
I put my parents in the deepest, darkest secrets. And then Mary told me, like, it's your deepest, darkest secrets. I was like, oh, I don't want to tell them that. So I put them out.
And it's not like, I'm not saying parents can't be there at all, because my mom is not there. I love you, mama, but you ain't in the middle. And it's not it's because she's my mother and I don't want to ruin a certain image of her. So I will hold back and not tell her the full truth or the whole part of it. And sometimes I do, when I try to be as honest in my mind, but that doesn't mean I'm subconsciously not filtering myself when I talk to her. So I did not put her in I did initially. It was her and 5 other people, which is wrong. There should only be 2 or 3 people in that most centered one outside of you.
Yeah, I think that's what I ended up with.
Yeah, because you and I both did the same thing where we had all these people in there. And then when I went back and I told you, you have to think about how you are with these people and not just how you value them. Because this isn't a value thing. I love my mom is in that middle circle, like that deepest circle with me. I love her like to death. But that does not necessarily mean that I tell her enough to be in that middle circle of trust. So it's not about who you value. It's about who you're actually your true, most authentic self with.
Who you trust to have that. I like who you trust to earn. Who you trust.
Who's earned it.
Oh my God, yes,
Who's
thank
earned
you.
your trust. There's also another part I want to preference is that if you're in a bad relationship, we all do it. We make excuses for the other person and continue to put them in that circle closest to us. You know when someone's bullshitting you, put it on the trust circle. And when you're questioning yourself because of something someone said to you, which I do periodically, refer to your trust circle. Do they even know enough about you for that statement to be true?
I do want to preference what Mary said. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a family, a coworker, again as a joke, your dog.
And you can make different circles for different environments. I have a totally different trust circle for work because it's not the same as my family.
And this trust circle is for you.
Yeah, you don't need to share it with anybody. It's specifically so that when you're having a moment of doubt, you can have a visual representation of where you should be putting your energy.
Exactly. So I think we will cut it here on trust circles, on trust issues /circles.
Next week, we're hopefully going to have our baby sisters along.
So we can talk about siblings, but we don't know yet.
We're hoping. We'll see. Thanks for listening to Now Try It With Wine. I'm Mary.
I'm Des.
Peace out, homies.
Bye.